Nintendo Switch 2 is officially available. That's right, the Switch 2 is officially out, and the internet is giving us some of their first reactions. And yeah, like we talked about during the Mario Kart Game of the Week segment, this has been super interesting to watch because normally when consoles come out, like the day before or the week before, we see like IGN or GameSpot or insert YouTuber here basically give their thoughts, or like they've gotten like an early copy or an early console, and they kind of give their feedback of why they're excited and why you should go buy that. That didn't happen with the Switch 2. In fact, according to Nintendo, they were like, it's not possible. Like, the Switch 2 requires a update over Wi-Fi that if we send it to you, pretty much anybody else in the world would have access to it. Now, I claim BS on that because I feel like they could do it like by putting in a digital card and that would update it. And I'm like, there's other ways you could update tech. It doesn't have to happen specifically over Wi-Fi. It's 100% doable. It's just the fact that Nintendo didn't want to send out these review copies, which then as like a conspiracy theorist gamer, you're like, why didn't they want to send it out, man? What is Nintendo trying to hide from us? Like, are they trying to make sure people don't know that their console's not going to work? Are they worried that the consoles are going to get poorly reviewed, man? Or is this just part of the scheme where the man just wants us to dive into commercialism and buy? No matter what the console is, just continue to buy, man. No, look, I don't think it's any of that. I think it's just Nintendo's like, we don't need reviews. We don't need to send out copies. This console is going to sell whether or not IGN covers it, or whether or not GameSpot covers it, or whether Marquez Brownlee covers it on YouTube. This console was going to sell. So I don't think Nintendo felt the pressure that they had to get these out there. That being said, the console is officially out, and we are getting the first reviews from gamers who are having actual hands-on time. And I kind of pulled some feedback from all across the internet, and I wanted to talk about it. So the guys over at Tom's Guide were talking about the hardware enhancements here on the Switch, saying that like users are really appreciating the improved performance. Like the console does have improved internal hardware, which makes running games a lot better. The screen itself is obviously significantly larger. It's 7.9 inches. One of my friends, Josh, was telling me that, hey, it's not OLED, but it's just as good. Like, he put his OLED Switch on the counter, and he put his new Switch 2 on the counter, and he was like, yes, it's not OLED, but it's significantly better than the original Switch screen. So that's cool. A lot of people are digging the new Joy-Con controllers. They've got the magnetic attachment, so instead of like clipping it in, it just claps right in. Super cool. And then, of course, the biggest one is backwards compatibility, right? This has become something that I feel like has become standard amongst all video game consoles, but it's also something that Nintendo could have easily been like, we're gonna be Nintendo, and backwards compatibility doesn't exist. So the fact that the Switch 2 can run previous Switch games, I think is a huge plus for many gamers. Now, you'll notice we started off with the positives because people on the internet like to say I'm a Nintendo hater, but we started off with the positives because we are about to pull that rug right from underneath the Switch 2. Let's talk about some of the criticisms and concerns that gamers are talking about on the internet. First and foremost, price point. $449.99 US dollars is a damn lot of money. That is a crap ton of money that, look, I'm not going to question people's financial decisions, but like in today's economy, it's wild. People are complaining about $6 eggs, $12 eggs. People are complaining groceries are getting too expensive. They doubled in cost. Yeah, somehow the entire world's like, $450 for a console. We can pull that. We can make that happen. It's just wild. The other thing that people are criticizing is like the limited number of exclusives for the console, right? I think there's 24 games that are available, launch titles. There's 24 titles. And when you look at it, Mario Kart World is pretty much kind of the only exclusive. And then I guess you got Nintendo Switch Tour, but we'll talk about that a little later. And Mario Kart World, look, people are just hoping that it was like cool. Like, yes, this is a great game. It got a 90 on Metacritic. People are excited, but they wanted to see like new exclusive titles, something bigger. I do think a big win could have been like having Donkey Kong available or having Metroid available at launch. I think would have been a big deal. Now, some of the games that are available right now for the Switch 2 is definitely worth noting. The Legend of Zelda, you got Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Split Fiction is available, Cyberpunk 2077, Hogwarts Legacy, Fortnite Switch 2 Welcome Tour, and something that I didn't expect to be a criticism, but I've seen plenty of people talk about this, is the user interface. A lot of people were expecting like, hey, we're getting a brand new console, let's change up the user interface. Maybe we're going to get a brand new home screen. Maybe we'll get like a new game management. Nintendo was like, yo, if it's not broken, why fix it? In fact, I saw, I think it was Nintendo podcast over on YouTube. They showed a comparison that even most viewers couldn't even tell the difference. They showed the Nintendo Switch OG user interface, and then they showed the Switch 2 user interface directly next to each other. And the guys on the podcast were like, I don't know which one's new. I don't know which one's the old one, which is very intriguing. I mean, again, I think this is Nintendo's like, why put resources towards something that's actually working? Let's just invest it towards actually new hardware and getting this to work. And then, of course, the final criticism I think we have to talk about is the Switch 2 welcome tour. Now, we have talked about this plenty here on the internet, but essentially this is a digitalized, gamified instruction manual that will cost you $9.99, and the folks over at IGN were quick to give this a 50%. But what's interesting is not only are they making you pay for this new instruction manual that teaches you how to use the console, but there are sections in this game that are behind a paywall because you have to buy additional hardware in order to get to them. So not only is this an instruction manual you have to pay for, but if you care about things like trophies and achievements, you have to buy additional items like a webcam or a Switch 2 Pro controller or even a 4K TV in order to be able to get all of the achievements and mini games and unlockments during this game. Is it a big issue? No, I think there's bigger issues in the world going on today, but again, just something that is being criticized. Now, when you take the criticisms and you take the positives that everyone is talking about on the internet, I do think it's worth noting the Switch 2 does look like it's a great upgrade, right? If you're a fan of the Switch, if you're a fan of Nintendo, and you want to stay in that ecosystem, but you're like, man, I wish it would run a little faster, or I wish the screen was a little clearer, Switch 2 is a great option to upgrade. But I think it's definitely worth noting this is not earth-shattering technology we're seeing here. Right, this is not a leap like we're seeing with the PlayStation 5 to the PlayStation 6 or the Xbox Series X to the next-gen consoles. We constantly see PlayStation and Xbox and even PC gaming push the limits of what's possible. But for the Switch 2, this just feels like, hey, you really liked the OG? Cool, we're going to give you more of that. But anyway, like I said, I have not been able to pick up this console, so I don't have first-hand experience with it. I haven't been able to create my own experiences. This is literally just what everyone's going off of on Reddit and social media, and I figured it'd be interesting to talk about, but you tell me in the comment section, have you played the Switch 2? What's your experience been like? Obviously, sound out in the comment section. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. Are you liking the games? Am I completely off base on the welcome tour? Is like $9.99 a decent price for that? Let me know in the comment section, and as always, I appreciate your feedback.